A developer just shipped a complex application. They never opened an IDE. They can't tell you what framework was used, but they can explain every architectural decision and business constraint. Are they still a developer? Today, we're challenging the biggest assumption in software, that developers write code. Welcome to Going to Production podcast.
The chatter today, it's around, don't go study computer science. It's useless.
It's a dying job.
It's a dying job. So David, is that a reality or is that a fallacy?
Thinking of a world with no more software engineers. I heard somebody cheering. Somewhere, somebody was very happy that there are no more software engineers.
I'm sure somebody was.
PM or somebody, yeah. But
CEOs
there,
maybe.
yeah. But there would be a lot lost with that. So it's such an extreme kind of cynical point of view saying that, because I would say that you're also believing that the robots will be here and flying cars will be here next year, right? And we all know that's not going to happen. The job of a developer, though, as we spoke in a previous episode, the job of the developer has changed. For sure. And quite honestly, I think a lot of us didn't realize it. Like the AI noise, you can't get away from that. It's everywhere. But how does that affect me and my job today? Because I hear everybody saying software development is changing. But I still have my job. I still, I haven't been laid off or anything like that. And, I don't know that I feel it. I feel like AI is replacing me or whatever. It is. And it's happening, but it seems like it's a bit of a kind of silent thing sometimes. The developer today, I think, is you're doing a lot more management of context, right? If you took 5 entry-level developers and you gave them all some job to do, something off the backlog to do. And that's it. That's all you did is hey, you know how to code, you know how whatever runtime we use, you know how to do all that. So go do this. They're all going to come back with a different way of doing that.
Right.
And I don't mean logically. I mean, let's assume that each thing that was assigned to them had a different job or a different business need, right? So obviously, each one's going to have different logic involved to accomplish that job. What I'm saying is the subtleties of, well, I did exception handling this way, and I named my variables this way, and I wrote my testing or did my testing in this fashion. Every one of those developers is going to do them differently.
Right. And
it's the exact same for AI. AI, if you go ask it to do something, it's going to give you, or you ask it the same question twice, it's going to give you a different answer every single time. If you don't provide some amount of, this is how we do stuff, right? This is how we do things. Documentation of some kind, internal documentation, which is usually very hard to come by.
A lot of work.
Of this is how we do things. If you just go tell it, do this, it's going to do it, but it's not going to do it in a very good way. Right. And it's definitely probably not going to be anywhere near the patterns and practices that your team is supposed to follow.
So do you agree that maybe the fallacy is that, generically speaking, don't go study computer science? When in reality, it means if your intention is just to be a code monkey, for example, so defining code monkey as maybe,
yes,
I know I hate
code monkey.
I really hate this term, and I've heard this term for a very long time. Meaning, in my mind, the way I heard code monkey is that they're only good to produce code.
Yeah.
And that's the only purpose for this person, this individual to be on the team, is to do the coding. It feels like to me, and let me know what your thoughts are, the concept of code monkey is a misnomer on what computer science does, what a computer engineering person brings to the table or software engineering
Complete
person
misunderstanding, yeah.
is a complete misunderstanding. But it does kind of relate to what AI is doing today.
Ignorance, possibly?
Potentially, well, most likely. But it does apply in that context or in that definition to what AI is doing. AI, in this sense,
Perfectly, yes.
is probably just a code monkey. So now you differentiate really what a computer science engineer, major, their contribution efforts versus what AI could potentially produce at the end of the day. Does that
No,
does that strike?
I'm there with you, and but see, that's, that is the robot, right? We expect the robot to do the thing fast and well and the same, hopefully every time.
Right.
And in this case, using AI or using a large language model, same thing. You expect it to do it well, but it's only going to do as well as the information that it's given,
Right.
right? Same as a human, except humans have a better way of reading between the lines,
Oh,
right?
right.
And so the reasoning, I would say, like, AI's gotten pretty good at reasoning. Human level reasoning, not so sure about that.
Right.
But the thing is, like, think about documentation coming from the developer advocacy world, and talking about evangelizing about the right way to release software and what a good presentation of your product to developers is,
Mm.
developer friendly kind of things. Like I've spent a lot of time there, and it means a lot to me. You spend a lot of time, of course, in documentation.
Right.
The shortcuts there are developers will use annotations and comments in their code to serve as generated documentation. And that is not documentation, that's a reference,
Right.
right? There is a difference between the two. An API reference is fine and well, but documentation is a different thing. We spend a lot of time there, though, hopefully, creating documentation because we want the person that's going to be consuming that API or whatever to do it very easily and quickly and, many times over. Internal stuff, though,
Mm.
is rarely documented, right? It's tribal knowledge.
Right.
It's just be on the team long enough and you'll get it kind of stuff. Well, imagine now as the world is shifting and developer roles are shifting, everybody's pairing up with AI.
Mm.
Right? So that tribal knowledge is now gonna work exactly against you,
Right.
right? That lack of documentation of here's how we do exception handling, and here's how we write controllers, and, here's our MVC, whatever. All of that stuff that was just like, "Hey, go look at another example
Right.
in code and you'll figure out how we do it." That is going to be your downfall quickly, and you're never going to get the most out of AI. You're not gonna get those 10x promises of doing all that. You have to spend the time putting all of that together, give it to AI, and then tell it to write code.
Ah. So you're saying then we're actually going to go back to true development. What is true development?
I feel like this is a loaded question.
It kind of was.
Uh, well, and so true development is, is there's no toil.
Mhm.
You're not dealing with tickets or issues or administrative stuff. You're doing computer science, right? You're writing algorithms, you're solving problems.
Right.
I would say that is true development. Now, tell me where I'm wrong because I'm pretty sure I'm walking into something here.
No, actually, you said the key words at the end. You're doing true computer science, and that's my definition of true development. Development is not writing code. That's part of the job.
Right.
And I think that's the fallacy that a lot of people who use the term code monkey are thinking that we just write code. But there's a lot of science, there's a lot of
There's art, I would say, a little bit in there.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's quite a bit of art, and there's shared function of the art. This is where we get to speak to our designers, we get to speak to our PM friends, right? So there's a shared part of the art, there's a shared part of the science as well, but in totality, that's development. It's not just engineers are only, or coders are just code monkeys. They just produce code.
Hmm.
Don't bother yourself with all this stuff. Which I think I say that and now a light bulb goes off. In pre Gen AI stuff, there probably was a place where we said we don't want to bother our developers with all the overhead of talking to the users, of being involved in a design
Yeah.
or all those things.
Why would you want the developer to understand what they're making? It's crazy.
Crazy idea. But I could probably justify it from one side. Writing code takes time. I don't want to distract them. Coders all the time complain.
Developers are expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, and coders complain for ever, and still probably still till today. We are in so many meetings, we can't even finish our code. So there's also a complaint that there's so many meetings throughout the day. I can't finish coding because we know it takes time. We need that brain power. We need that thinking.
You can't just sit down and start going. There's a
Right.
warm-up period. There's a cool
Context
down period.
switching.
Yeah.
Right. So that context switching is hard. But now imagine when you have a payer like Gen AI that can go in and speed you up.
They don't need a warm-up time or a cool down time. Give them context,
Right.
and they can just go.
Right. So that pair programming doesn't mean you're hands-off code. It probably just means that I could probably move faster, which means I can't be involved in the design conversations. I can't be involved in the user, interviews and understanding the user space and whatnot.
Yep.
So technically, Gen AI is helping engineers become more in the development space than just coding.
I kind of want to connect two ideas that you've had. In a previous episode, you definitely pointed towards real software development, or you get to be a real engineer again,
Right.
And now, we've also kind of introduced the idea of pair programming with AI. And so I kind of want to put those two together. And it's like, we can't necessarily go super deep here on all the specifics for it.
Right.
But can you talk about maybe just some of the nuances about like where I think you touched on, like, as an engineer, where are some places that I'm going to get to work that I, normally haven't been able to in the past? But like, what are the things that you're going to have to do differently when you're paired with AI versus just, traditionally you have a developer team and they go do stuff?
Right. There's so many different ways to answer that question, obviously, depending on where you want to go. One thing we learned through labs and the years of developing is two main concepts. There's a concept around discovery and framing. There's a concept around balance team. And we always talked about the latter being co-creators, meaning that the balance team are involved in every single step of the process of building a product. When we talk about discovery and framing, we noticed this in prior practice, I'm going to say prior engagements. Engineers were kept away because we were being considerate of their time that they need to produce code.
Right. Yeah.
The side effect, they're not close to the problem.
Context.
Yes. And what happens when you share context? You lose some of the fundamentals. The things that I always argued for, regardless of how much more time it takes for engineers to be present, it reduces the time later when we talk about context.
And so the balanced team was the idea there that you had different roles and they worked together.
Yeah.
It wasn't, as opposed to including everyone in most of the conversations, giving them all context. Each person had a slice of context, but as a team, you completed it. Yeah.
They all had context all the time. The reason being is, like, I always told them the rationale. When I'm in a meeting and from a functional perspective, those functions are listening to different things. Meaning, a PM is focused on vision, for example. Designers focus on the experience. The engineers focus on the how. So they're asking questions around,
Solving
so
it. Yeah.
yeah, they're trying to derive solutions where the other side is deriving experience and maybe the whats. They're thinking about, okay, so if I need to solve this, then what about this scenario? And what about that scenario? You're not necessarily going to get that from any person I'm going to say when you go through the surveying perspective.
Mhm.
You're only going to get certain questions out of certain people with certain mindsets, or they're focused on a certain area,
Right.
right? It's very common across the board with anything out there.
Well, I mean, event storming, the reason that you have the business and technology and everything in the room together is to combine all those
Yeah.
thoughts.
So when you hear, and that's a great example.
Yeah.
When you bring event storming, you bring all these different functions. What you're listening for is, where's the hidden problems?
Mm.
The problem could be like, but a process is really simple. We're just trying to do A and B. But then you realize from security or technology or somewhere else in IT that says, wait, A to B has X, Y, and Z. So it's not just A to B.
If then else, Wael. Why is that
Yeah.
so hard?
Well,
If
this
then
is
else.
if then else, if then, right? This is like a case statement rather than an if statement. So that's the tricky part, but it doesn't come out because the other parties are not involved in like that particular
Right. Right.
part of it. This party is. So when you bring them to the conversation, now you start to really understand the behavior.
And so let's bring this back around
Yeah.
to the notion of pairing with AI, right? Because all of this is even with the humans, you're going to you either need to include everyone and everything to have, complete context and create something that is expected, or, the idea of a balanced team, but then you need a very healthy culture and a very healthy, management of that team, which is a whole nother topic. When you include AI in this, it has to have all of those things. If you don't give it all of that context, it's going to create junk.
Oh,
It's gonna work.
oh,
That one time it's going to
I
work,
guarantee you
but then you ask it
AI,
again and it's gonna do something completely different, and that will work.
I guarantee you AI will produce code that compiles, tests, and looks good, but it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Is is part of it. I do want to bring it back around to the concept of a modern stack.
Oh,
Ignoring the concepts of the toolings, the maturity of the toolings, and the impact of that maturity on your stack, I think is the key part. What this means is that the patterns that we use are going to get strengthened because of the tool. So the patterns are going to allow us time to accomplish certain tasks and initiatives that we might have cut corners on in the past,
right.
or we might have shorted because we ran out of time. We don't
Mhm.
want to spend too much time on it. It could be one of those like, it just takes so much work. It's grunt work. I don't want to do it. But now because AI is coming to the mix and it's allowing us to really empower us to do things faster so we don't cut corners. But imagine how much more if this context was captured, enriched, and became specifications.
Yeah.
How easy it is to feed that to AI and
All I
produce
can
the right thing, right?
all I can think about is the robots are making us more precise, maybe. The robots are making us, not cut corners,
Yes.
right? And as humans, we're gonna do that every single time.
Right.
Wherever we can short circuit something, get it done faster, cheaper, easier, whatever. But
But pay the cost later.
and
You're
so, like,
right.
the robots are ones and zeros, right? That's all they're going to do is just what they're told.
Right.
And that if you don't give it the context, you make all those assumptions and all those, reading between the lines that humans might do.
Right.
Fine, then it's just not gonna do that, and it'll be very happy about it.
Oh, so much so. I think it's if I were to narrow it down, what's happening in the modern stack today is that we're synthesizing faster to allow for human analysis to happen faster,
Okay.
and is providing you that data points so humans can actually make the decisions and reason
That's fair enough. Yep.
to make the decisions on what's next.
Yep. That wraps up our second series. In our next series, we're going to look at what happens when you throw out traditional development backlogs, and you develop in atomic thin slices instead. Thank you for listening to Going to Production. Please consider subscribing to our podcast, and we'll see you in the next series.